Give you quick numbers real fast before I get to George Alvarez, the CEO of Velatel. Look, Dow hitting 15,000 is giving us some confidence, but we're a bit muted today. Dow Jones is even at 15,101. NASDAQ is even at 3414, and S&P is down 3 points. I mean, we are going flat here. I think a consolidation play is in place here. Look, I want to talk to you about Velatel, and the reason I want to talk about it is because this is a wireless telecommunications company that acquires assets in emerging markets throughout the world. Here to talk about that is George Alvarez, the CEO. George, thanks for swinging by again today. I appreciate you coming to the studio.
Thank you so much for having me.
So listen, we had a lot of folks email me last time you were on the air because you shook some trees about some of the places that you're in, and the reason being is these are markets that do not have or have underserved wireless communications. So take us from the very beginning, kind of what you guys do, and then let's talk about those areas again.
Well, we're in Peru and the entire country. We deployed a network there. We're in the beautiful country of Montenegro.
Where is Montenegro exactly?
It's
right before Canada.
No, that's
well, it's Montana.
That's Montana.
My bad.
Where's Montenegro exactly?
Montenegro is right across Italy on the other side of the
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah,
How nice is that for business trips?
Yeah,
Wow.
it's really nice.
Yeah.
And then just north of that is Croatia,
Uh-huh.
which is another beautiful country. We're there also.
So my question, though, is it's surprising to me in this decade of wireless that every country doesn't have a good infrastructure, but indeed that's not the case, is it?
No, it's very expensive. I mean, what we do isn't cheap. It costs a lot of money, and at the end of the day, it becomes a commodity because, like anything else in this world, when you use something over and over and over again, it becomes a commodity.
Right. Sure.
So communications and smart devices and Google it.
Yeah. Right.
Is,
Sure. Yeah.
is part of the world.
And
I
it
mean,
can go right in the palm of anyone's hand now.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
all
Mobilities. I mean, that's where it's at. So that's what we do. We deliver these networks that provide those types of services.
So capital, engineering, architectural, everything from turnkey operations. So you go in there, boots on the ground, and start it. Now, how do you do that? I mean, is that are there existing JVs in place? Are there existing companies in place?
No, we in the countries that I just mentioned. Well, the exception is Hong Kong. Hong Kong, we acquired a company that provides services in Hong Kong and China.
Oh, that's huge.
Yeah, that one's a big one.
For our radio audience, if you go to Velatel.com, there's a great map there, kind of pinpointing where the projects are at, and our TV audience can see that. But we'll put that map up at BigBizShow.com.
So anyways, with the exception of Hong Kong, in the other countries, we acquire the spectrum, typically from government, and then after we acquire the spectrum, we engineer a network that would provide maximum coverage, for instance, geographically, for the cheapest dollars.
Right.
Really, that's the formula that you use. And then you buy equipment, you install it all, build towers and network operation centers.
Rent out the corner of churches and other places. I've seen these receiver towers.
So you're talking about cell towers?
I think so.
Do you have the same? You know, in the U.S. here, what Russ is talking about in the U.S. You know,
the fake palm tree.
Big carriers are looking for real estate because the more towers, the better service, right?
Well, you know, it's just coverage. They need more. They need more towers or more locations. Here in America, you're talking zoning. You know, that's why you have the fake palm trees and the steeple.
I see.
Church steeple. They don't want to see these massive towers in the middle of, but in the countries I'm at, they really don't care.
Yeah, right.
I don't
put up a stick.
I don't have big zoning issues there.
What is you have to deal with like a translator too? I would imagine when you go over there to get.
You know what?
Get all that
business is an English language.
Really?
You know, pretty much. America likes to speak one language. The rest of the world is multilingual.
Except here in America.
Except here in America. So
I'm so surprised to hear that, but I've heard that from more than one person. That if you go to Hong Kong or you go to Shanghai, you don't need to learn anything unless you're eating off the street somewhere in a market.
God forbid.
Yeah, you're gonna have your places where people speak only the native tongue. But in my experience, by and large. English is the language of business, and you communicate quite easily.
The name of the company, of course, Velatel, stock symbol VELA. Velatel.com is their website. George, talk about wireless broadband networks. As the speed at which internet traffic increases and goes from copper lines to dial-up and other slow stuff, wireless obviously gives us our instant gratification. It's the reason we can make a phone call, surf the net, and watch a movie at the same time on our smartphones.
Right.
What's the status? What is the status right now when you go into countries? comparatively speaking to the U.S., because the U.S. has got pretty good. I'm assuming. I mean, I don't know any others, but I'm assuming our speed is pretty good. How does our that pipe that speed compare to other countries that you guys are in before you even go in? Like some of the developed nations. I'm talking about specifically like when you go into developed nations. Are we up to speed here in this country?
We're catching up, actually.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
I've heard we got pretty bad coverage comparatively.
Yeah. Most countries would install and implement new technologies with a bit more speed. Okay, I don't know why that is. I think it's capital. You know, it takes a lot to do stuff here in America.
Oh, then let me ask you this.
Regulations.
So compare us to, okay, so then when you put in a wireless broadband network in some of the places like Montenegro or Peru, like you talk about, the systems you put in place, are they similar to what we have here?
Yes, exactly. I'll give you an example. It's really, the technology isn't the issue. It's really the time to deploy.
Okay.
An example, in Peru, we launched the entire country, which was 9 provinces. So think of that like 9 states.
Sure.
And from acquiring the spectrum to launching the network, we did it in 10 months. To do that here in America.
Well, first of all, you have 2 years of litigation.
Yeah. To do that here in America.
And then you got a year and a half of permitting.
Correct.
And then you
actually 2 years of zoning before you get the permit.
Okay, so you guys, your zoning, your permitting, and then the litigation.
Palm tree designers got to get involved.
So
then.
So you got 5 years.
Oh my goodness.
You know, so it's not really do we have the pipe. It's really just the things you have to do here in America in order to do something like that. It takes a long time.
The adoptability rate here in the U.S. obviously, and it didn't take us long to do it because we got addicted to the crack very quickly as far as on.
It's called convergence.
So convergence what's the convergence like in those countries? Are they just starving for this? Is it like water, electricity, and everything else?
Yeah, it's instant. It's like having ketchup for the first time.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, they love it.
And what you mentioned before on the air here, by the way, George, is that you said that even in those countries, you'll see the poorest of kids having cell phones.
Absolutely.
So they're all dying for better service.
Absolutely. The beggars on the street are, holding out their hand on one side. They have the baby and the dog,
and their iPhone, or their
and they're talking on the phone. So.
Wow. The other thing I want to chat about real quickly is this VoIP, voice over internet protocol. You'll know it as Skype or WhatsApp has it. Is that going to be the gold standard from now on? You think everybody's going to be talking over VoIP in this world?
I think it's going to be a big play. I mean, it's going to be part of communications because there's such a short supply of spectrum. In order to do things fully wirelessly, it requires a great deal of spectrum, which is megahertz and things of that nature, and there's only so much capacity that you could do with there. So when you're talking about the internet and trying to use, for instance, 802.11, which is Wi-Fi, Wi-Fi hasn't gone away. As a matter of fact, it's expanded. So you really have a combination of all the spectrum that you could possibly obtain. Carriers around the world are literally trying to get any spectrum. Even here in America, they're trying to now get government spectrum. They're trying to get military spectrum.
So there's a land grab going on here.
Yeah, well, no, it's always been. It's not.
Oh, no kidding.
It's always been. Spectrum's always been a very scarce commodity. So whenever you combine internet with spectrum and then Wi-Fi, which is also spectrum, but it's common spectrum, like your TV remotes and your garage door opener all use 802.11. So when you combine all that, it's just going to be part of your communication in the future.
Let's talk some more about that radio frequency spectrum license. Also, see if Russ knows the difference between 2G, 3G, and 4G. Coming up around the program, George Alvarez, Velatel. VELA is a stock symbol, Velatel.com. Back in a second. Got a lot of email coming in about our guest, George Alvarez, the CEO of Velatel. VELA is their stock symbol, VELA. And, of course, Velatel.com. Interesting company. Specifically speaking, these guys are a global wireless communications company. They make acquisition of related assets through emerging markets. We discussed the emerging markets. We talked about what broadband wireless is. We've reached a lot of things. Once again, and just so I get the symbol right, VELA, that's V as in Victor, ELA, is the stock symbol, and Velatel.com. We're talking about radio frequency spectrum licenses, and we talked about it being a land grab. Is that the same deal overseas in emerging markets as well?
Every country has the right to allocate their spectrum the way they choose. So you have companies that obtain consignments in exchange for providing services, and you have companies that buy them outright.
How do you control that signal? What if you're right on the border and one country's signal's going over? Hey,
you ever like right here in San Diego, when you go to San Diego to Tijuana?
Yeah.
The second you cross the border,
yeah, just
it's
like
over,
that.
right?
instant.
Yeah, how does that? Yeah, you get
music.
the movie phone or whatever comes up.
There's a very nice sequence. Basically, they pump up the power.
Yeah.
And so each side is pumping the power against each other, and it neutralizes.
At that
location.
Oh, that's good.
So there's no creep, so to speak.
You know the noise canceling headsets?
Yeah,
to
right.
put it simply.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all algorithm. So you have a canceling algorithm that
Cancels them out.
Cancels them out.
See?
The well, and the interesting part about that.
But they do the same on the other side.
Yeah, they're pushing against us too, right?
Yeah.
So the same thing happens. It's interesting because if you think about what's happening here in the States, you've got let's say on the television station you're watching us on. Let's say you're watching us on channel 10. There's now 10.1, 10.2, 10.3.
Sure.
So they're sectioning off their broadband or their spectrum. Is that what they're doing in the?
They've always done that.
Okay, so they're going to continue to do that.
Yeah, they've always done that. I mean, spectrum and radio frequency is think of it mathematics: sine wave, cosine wave, tangent wave. Remember that?
Russ is now breathing through his mouth. Mouth breather.
What just happened?
So you could take those waves and you can slice them up, and you can slice them up with the actual frequency. Let's say 10 to 10.1.
Yeah.
Right.
And then before you can also slice them up with time. That was time division multiple access, an old technology from before.
Oh, sure. Who can't remember those?
Yeah.
Well, and so let's take it. So let's talk about this generation stuff: 2G, 3G, 4G. So 2G is second generation wireless, 3G is third generation. What is happening to cause the next generation? Is that what they're doing? They're splitting up more spectrum and making more available.
No, you know what? That's a great question, Sully, because you're pretty close. They have to because spectrum bands. Let's say they have 20 megahertz of spectrum, like a slice of pie.
Right.
And there's only so much capacity you can get in that pie.
Right.
So they're creating technologies to compress the density. Think of density like the sun is really dense.
Sure.
So normally you have this slice of spectrum, for instance, that is like a sponge cake.
Right.
And now they're trying to get it to be as dense as a piece of chocolate.
Right.
But a lot of chocolate. So when they do that, when they try to accomplish that goal, they're trying to increase the capacity. Why? Because you're Googling, you're searching, you're watching movies.
All at the same time.
They kind of did
all
that
at the same
with
time.
video and photographs.
Absolutely, they're doing the same
Over
thing.
the internet now, they just instantly.
Yeah, and look at what's happening with cameras. You can do all kinds of stuff. You can take a picture, you can remove a person, you can add a person.
Thank
I mean, there's
God.
1,000 things. Like you're.
I didn't look too bad.
No longer do I have to be cut out of the pictures.
My wedding shots, I was really looking good. And
you have a girlfriend, you don't have a girlfriend.
Yeah, boy, thanks for that.
That's technology.
One more day, man, would have been over
doing
that.
so
Thank you,
well
George.
before you.
George Alvarez is the CEO of Velatel. VELA is a stock symbol. Last of all, I want to talk to you about the hydrogen fuel cell. It is a form of portable energy. I had no idea.
What?
Talk to us about
like
that.
a battery?
And of course, Velatel Global Communications, Velatel.com, VELA is a stock symbol, is in all of these technologies. So talk to us about the hydrogen fuel cell. What is that?
That's so funny you mentioned that. What we do at the hydrogen fuel cell level is every time you build a network, every single site has battery backup.
Okay.
So in Boston, for instance,
as redundancy, right?
As redundancy.
If something goes down, you got something.
Yeah, the power goes out, and communications are important for 911. It's an important commodity, so you have to have some type of backup power. The current telecom environment or ecology, let's say, has batteries as their backup power. Batteries are expensive. They have to replace them every 18 months. They have to figure out what to do with them. So it's environmentally, let's say, damaging.
Sure.
So fuel cells have been around for a long time, which is basically taking hydrogen and they remove an atom from the hydrogen through this mesh it goes through, and then they store that electron in a capacitor, and then they use that for power. So what we've done is we've acquired a company that for the sites, for the telecom sites that we install, instead of installing batteries as our backup system, we're installing fuel cells to act as the backup system, which is basically
creating energy.
A cabinet of electronics with tanks of hydrogen. Real simple stuff.
Wow.
But those, as long as you have hydrogen going through that membrane, you have power. So we tried to implement a turnkey solution that's also green.
What's interesting about this is, once again, the name of the company, Velatel Global Communications, velatel.com, VELA. We're going to have George on again next week. But it's interesting about that is you never know when you first start these things where you start off with a business model. You got point A, you go to point B. And point B never ends up being exactly where you think it's going to be. But it's usually better than the point B you originally planned. George, thanks for coming in, brother.
Thank you so much.
George Alvarez. Go check out their website, velatel.com.
I learned too much just
that was probably the best
lesson
in wireless we've ever had in 17 years of this program.